the news that a lot of us woke up to and sort of anticipated over the weekend, which was the economic downturn showing off in the stock market as things seem to be plummeting this morning. Will's got a degree in finance, so I said, you know what, Will Haynes, executive producer, is going to be joining me in here. What does this mean for a Trump campaign? What does it mean for a Harris campaign? Obviously, President Trump seizing at the moment, making this a political talking point that he's going to need moving forward. As we've seen polls start to tighten, things start to shift in terms of Trump versus Harris. You now have a real moment to seize on. The economy is crashing, and that's usually what people vote about.
Yeah, it's the old adage that people vote with their pocketbooks, meaning that if the economy's doing well, the incumbent typically has an advantage over the challenger. But however, if the economy is not doing so well, sometimes people are looking for change. Now, the Biden-Harris team, the administration, as well as now the Harris campaign and formerly the Biden campaign, had been touting that this was the greatest economy ever. Everyone is doing so much better. And a lot of people on Main Street, as they say, didn't buy it. They weren't saying this is true. But however, we see a litany of bad news for the administration and for the American public as the economy over the end of last week. Right. This isn't something to celebrate. This is a very real situation where there was a bunch of earnings reports came out from big tech companies last week. Those were not as expected. Also, a lot of spending from these companies on AI technology actually hurt their stock prices earlier in the week, last week. Then we saw the Federal Reserve decide to not lower rates once again. They're going to maintain again. And then we saw at the end of the week a jobs report where the unemployment rate is now the highest it's been since September of 2021. So early in the Biden-Harris administration. Yeah. All of these things mixed together.
Real beginnings of COVID, really.
Well, yes, it was when things were starting to kind of turn around. You're a year and a half in.
Not a lot of states, though. Like in California, they were nowhere near.
Right. So what you're seeing is now an unemployment rate skyrocketing back up under this administration when they've been telling us it's the best economy in the world, nothing to worry about, at a time when Kamala Harris has been enjoying kind of a honeymoon period, a celebratory period from the media as her now being the nominee. When all this news hit at the end of last week, we saw a huge nosedive on Friday of the stock market, and it continued into today.
I think it's an important pivotal moment in U.S. economic history, and it will test Kamala Harris's ability to be agile and nimble in the face of bad economic news. So I think it's clear to virtually everyone that the stock market has fallen sharply, not only in the United States, but in Japan and much of the rest of the world. Now, in part, this follows, of course, a bad jobs report last week. Unemployment shot up to 4.3%. Only 114 new jobs were created. But the picture with respect to jobs is actually much worse. Why? Because most of the new jobs that we've created in the United States since the Biden administration took office have gone to illegal and legal immigrants as opposed to native-born Americans. Hence, many native-born Americans don't feel very good about the economy. You couple that with high interest rates. So, for instance, the average home price, if you factor in mortgage rates and the price of a house, have doubled for many people. And so those rates have kept a large number of Americans, particularly first-time buyers, out of the market. Yeah. This has fueled worldwide uncertainty, and right now, neither Joe Biden nor Kamala Harris can basically offer a path forward. And I think that is one of the problems. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has suggested that this would in fact occur, and it has now occurred. Whether or not it's occurred simply because he suggested it, I'm not going to venture a comment on, but I will say that most people trust Donald Trump's judgment on the economy a little bit more
Yes.
than they trust the Biden administration. So what's the remedy? Many people are pushing for a Federal Reserve rate cut. That may be exactly the wrong advice, because if you go back for the last 30 years in U.S. economic history, a Federal Reserve cut in the face of such bad economic news has generally preceded what? The R word, a recession. And that means that a rate cut could actually worsen the forecast.
For years now, the Biden administration, along with Kamala Harris, have been gaslighting the American public, because what we're seeing now is symptoms of what's been going on. You're seeing it hit the top. You're seeing it hit these large companies. You're seeing the world react.
You're being burdened by what has been.
Right. But there's a lot of people who have been feeling this strain. When you talk about being able to move houses, even laterally, because of the rates, it's impossible for many people. If you get a job in a new city, you have to consider the ramifications of, you may get, a nice pay raise because you got a new job, but it may actually be making less money because your housing costs are going to go up so much. And so what now we think the American public has been feeling for a while, that the Biden administration has been straight up lying to your face about, is coming to fruition at the worst period for the Harris campaign.
Kamala Harris doesn't seem to understand that. She doesn't seem to understand the needs of the American people. So one of the things that I would recommend that she do is go into a grocery store and look at grocery store items now versus 2, 3, 4 years ago. I've talked to individuals who are now paying up to $70 for a dinner for 4 at Five Guys, a fast food restaurant.
Very expensive.
And so increasingly the costs are astronomical for the American people.
No, it's true. I mean, I have a family of 5. Let's say sometimes we're feeding another person if they're with us, or a friend. Or I rarely walk out of a kid-friendly family restaurant for under $100. Like, we each have to go now going, all right, this is going to be at least $100 with tip, maybe more. And that is unfathomable for a lot of people.
And you couple all that with the fact that a senior economic advisor this morning for the Biden administration left the administration to go where? To go work on the Harris campaign. Maybe a bad time to leave the real job of advising the sitting U.S. president on the economy to go work on the campaign to try to reelect the vice president. You have that coupled with a looming conflict in the Middle East with Iran and many other things. It seems like the honeymoon period for Kamala Harris may be over. We'll see how it plays out.